Yeah, help works.
Yep. Just in case it took more than 12 minutes.
We're all ready? Ready to rumble.
Ali's just getting a copy.
Okay. Declare the meeting of the Risk and Assurance Committee open. Any apologies?
Councillor Finch.
Sorry.
Sorry. Councillor Finch.
All those in favour?
Aye.
Carried. Brian and Michelle. Declarations of interest. No declarations of interest. Any urgent business? No. No public forum? No. That takes us to the minutes of our last meeting, 14th of March.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Ken, and thank you, Bruce G. Those in favour? Aye. Those against? Carried. And that takes us to page 16. And the risk status progress report and effective people leadership. Christina, welcome.
Thank you. Kia ora, koutou. So I run these reports so we can place focus on our specific risks on our critical and high risk register. Ineffective people leadership places 5th, and I think it's good and brave that we acknowledge that this is an area we need to focus on and recognise the importance. We've done a lot in the past 10 months to support our people by giving them training and defining what matters. We've a long way to go, but we have a bit of a plan, and it's something that we will be tracking quite closely. We'll know that all of these things that we are putting in place or that we're trying to do, we will be working on. We'll be working through quarterly reporting. I'll be working with each activity to produce reports on their performance, and it talks about things like their statutory targets, employee engagement, their finances, safety, customer satisfaction, and leadership performance. And I'm really hoping that once we've put all these things in place, we can remove this risk as a result. Well, it'd be great if it was not there at all. So yeah, we're working on reducing it, and I hope that in a year's time we can come back and say it's now. Everything that we've put in place is worked and it's low. We keep it on that risk register though, so we can place focus on it, and it is there, and it remains important to us. So that's one reason why it's there as well, and it's a good choice. So happy to take any questions.
So thank you, Mr. Chair, just for you. So I'm intrigued as to how that sort of intertwines with our employment, the way we employ them, because I find it sort of hard to imagine if we're, an organisation this size with this amount of staff, there's always some people leaving and some fresh people coming in. So it's sort of interesting that you say in a year's time you hope to take it off. You've got people coming in. I mean, the cynic in me or the optimist would say, look, if we're employing the right people, that wouldn't even be on the list. And so we're employing more people. So I'm just wondering how that intertwines in your comment as far as, we could have another 15 or 20 different people this time next year. So how can we drop it off when we've got constantly revolving staff?
I hope not. We're putting a lot of effort into our leaders. So I hope that we keep those 10 activity leaders, and everything that we're doing turns into culture. So the things that we're doing, they adopt, they look after their teams and they support their teams, and as a result we see less people leaving.
As long as none of those 10.
Yeah, but if that happens, then we're building on the culture, and this is how things are done. When you work for us,
Thank you.
this is what we expect.
Thank you.
Brian?
Yeah, just in light of the present issues that we're confronting, possible causes, I think that it's fair to put political interference. I know that if I was considering job prospects and you've been working away on a project and then politically it just got scrapped, halfway down the track, I may feel that, what the hell am I doing here? And yet the political interference and the political environment's not listed as any of the, the environment must be having an influence on the morale and desire to, it is, but it's not listed there.
Thank you, I've taken a note.
Cheers.
All those through you, Mr. Chairman, I mean, we need to remember that it's about, when the risk is ineffective people leadership as opposed to the ability to retain people or attract people. What you suggested, Your Worship, certainly would be something potentially along those lines. But that's what you've identified as part of the environment that we work in local government anyway. And so, if you look at the 12 things, I think those are more applicable to that side of things.
I've never seen the environment, Steve, where the political environment to make bad decisions and in the old easy days, you're never pushed into a corner. And I'm certainly seeing unexpected outcomes from the political pressure that we're now under.
It's an interesting point, Your Worship, through you, Mr. Chairman. I mean, one of the things we do say to people, it's not in our induction or it's in some of the discussions I might have or whatever, but if you're working in local government, and particularly when we bring in people from outside local government who haven't worked in local government before, where you do have this dynamic where you are working with political decision makers very closely, right? We always say to people that, we say specifically that it's the council law's right, elected members' right to make any decision that they wish to make, and it's our job to work and live within the decisions, whether we agree with them, disagree with them, think they're right, wrong, or indifferent about it. And that's actually one of the very important things we tell our people, is that not to personalise it, not to get upset if you put a recommendation ahead and the council decides to go another way, to actually reflect and look at what it is that we did and how we did it. But it's your right and your decisions, and that's the classic dynamic for local government staff. All staff working in local government, if they come in with a different viewpoint, they're looking at it wrongly, right? So, and the chair knows how that works as well, and that's something we actually tell people, because they come in with a different perspective, and we say, no, hang on, it's not our decisions, and it's council has the right to make a call whichever way they go, and that's what we work on, and we go. We are apolitical in that respect, and that's what we teach people.
Simon?
Yeah, through the chair. So, Christina, a year ago, did you have an effective people leadership rated in the critical and high risk category?
Yeah, so we had PwC come through and audit or review our risk register, and it included them interviewing a number of our elected members and our senior leadership. And so that's how we came up with the top 13. So, yes.
Yeah, and okay, so yeah, that's right. Because my next question was, if not, was going to 10 managers instead of 3, had that elevated it? But you're not shifting from 10 activity managers, 3, sorry, to 10. Is it fair that elevated it, or you've just left it the same risk?
Well, the risk was on there. We recognised that something needed to be done. So to build capacity and to give autonomy or the ability for our people to take control of their areas, that's why we moved to 10
Yeah.
activities.
It should counter some of that. That's what we're hoping.
But I think the question from the councillor was, because I can't call myself Christina, but when we did our earlier calculations of the risks, was, for example, an effective people leadership critical, and has it dropped down as a consequence, or was it always high and it's just being managed now? I can't remember.
I report on that in the next. So I reported on that in our last risk and assurance meeting, and I will report on it in the next one where they sit, but I can't remember. Sorry.
That's right. Okay. I'm just.
Bruce?
Through you, Mr. Chair, just staff engagement, I think, is one important measure there. At the bottom of page 18. How do you measure staff engagement? Is that sort of self-reported when doing performance reviews, or is that you sort of making the managers making an assessment? How is staff engagement measured?
We have used a staff engagement tool called Gallup, and so that's where those survey results have come from. And that's one way we can measure staff engagement. The other ways that we will be doing that is through our 360 reviews, and that will be coming in the next few months. So we'll be asking our people how they are feeling about their leadership, and yeah, that's just one way we will be doing that. But the Gallup is where you see those numbers. So through a survey.
Good, thank you, Christina. We'll move the motion. I'm going to just modify the motion that's in the report that we received the risk status progress report for ineffective leadership. Just fill that out. So move and second, please. Thank you, John. Thank you, Bruce G. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. That takes us to Sharon's risk and assurance work plan report on page 19. Sharon.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm just going to, take this report pretty much as read, and just the Melville Jessup Weaver quarterly investment report hasn't turned up yet, so we'll pop that out to you when it does, and just take any questions you may have.
So I have a question. The changes, these two red spots, have been recommendation to adopt an audit management report have moved out to the 18th of July. My question is, what consideration of the risks associated with moving that out past the traditional statutory deadline of 30 June has been considered?
Yes, question for you.
I wasn't sure if it was a question for me or for the councillors.
Not to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We have talked about the dates and what they meant with councillors through workshops and things, and we chose not to defer for the year, which we are really grateful for now, because of the new rules that have come in around that as well. And we have looked at the risks of when our rates notices will need to go out, and making sure that we have enough time to do that so that we can still meet our post deadlines. We've worked backwards from that, and we believe it also de-risks us a bit because it gives us more time to get our stuff together for our consultation and things like that. So yes, we have considered them quite a bit and been around and around talking about that.
So is this committee comfortable with that
We've really got.
Yep.
Yeah, I think it's been well explained.
Well explained. From my perspective, as I said at the last meeting, is I've been there, done that before. And the key thing is making sure you collect that rates revenue on time. Not achieving that deadline is a bucket of sick, really.
It was really a product of the audit process, really, wasn't it? We got just pushed back a little bit, so it was hand in hand, not I mean, it was the process was what it is.
Okay, with that from me, if there's nothing else, can I have a mover and seconder, please? Thank you, Bruce B. and Ken. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. That takes us to the annual plan performance monitoring report on page 21. Trey is wandering this way. Welcome, Trey.
Kia ora, everybody. I'm happy to take the management accounts as read, but I do have some comments on KPI stuff. So firstly, I've put in the agenda that the median times for water, I'll report to you verbally. We haven't 100% got down to the bottom of it, but it seems like there's a disconnect between the requests coming to council and then the requests making their way to the contractor. So there's a bit of a hold up there. So because I measure it from when we get it rather than when the contractor gets it. And the contractors are reporting that they're doing their stuff pretty quickly, but we're not reflecting that because there must be a disconnect between when they actually get the data from us. Which this is being worked on, because at the moment everything's in a lot of different systems. So I'm working with Linda and the IT team to streamline it, put it all through one system, and then hopefully stuff like this doesn't happen anymore. Which I've talked to the IT team and I should have an update around how well that's gone by the next meeting. And then with the complaints about council responses, previously these hadn't been tracked because of the change in system. I hadn't picked up why they hadn't been coming through. Again, that was just a talk with Linda and IT about changing how we do our service request system, and then if there's a follow-up complaint, then we just take a button now that'll show us that that's what's happened. But other than that, I'm happy to take questions.
Alison.
I'll probably go to, as we've been out talking to people this weekend, and there were people from Waihola concerned that the Anteno app, they weren't getting replies back from requests that were put forward. So is that something that's been happening generically?
I can't comment towards what's happening with Anteno, but that is something I can look into for you. Because I know that, yes, that is one way that we take our service requests on.
Right.
Yeah,
I might
can't say.
have a discussion with you later. On
Okay,
this.
yep.
Brian
That's
and John.
probably try just the perception, but where we've got urban water medium resolution time for urgent cases, and I know we're constantly so that 15 days. 15 days for urgent doesn't sound very urgent. Is there another way we could frame it up? Because it looks bad. You think if it was urgent, it would be 15 hours or 15 days.
Yes, that's, well, I think we're aiming for 2 and 4 hours. Yeah, they are still urgent cases. I think it's the issue with getting the data to the contractor, because generally from what we've seen from the contractor's data is that they are doing the requests in the required time or close to, but it's the issue of us giving the contractor the service request.
Yeah, also because along our street a couple of weeks ago, they're brilliant. They came around late on Friday night, they told all the residents you're going to be out of water. They did it, they're back the next morning. So what I'm saying on the ground was, super efficient work and really good. And then you go 15 days and you think, what's going on? Because it's not what we're saying.
Yeah, and those numbers are also skewed from historic requests that just for whatever reason have been closed. Because it's a median time. If you have stuff that's been carried over for months, then it's going to mess with the data. But yeah, there's a case of that as well as the disconnect between us and them.
John.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, and thanks, Trey. Can you help me understand what's happened in March? And I'm really referring to that middle line of the KPI graph and circles there, because like if I look at the wastewater medium hours to confirm resolution, wastewater medium hours to reach the site, in February they're all zero, and in March they're all red. We've gone from one extreme to the other in a month.
The zeros are generally just because there is no data. So
Right.
there may or may not have, there's been no requests for those. But there's a difference between requests raised and how I report on these. Because I report on anything that is when they've turned up on site or they've closed a request within the month, not necessarily a request has been raised. So if a request is raised at the end of the month, but they don't turn up to the month after, I'll report that data in the month after, rather than the month it occurs.
So look here, just trying to interpret, what it means for 16 hours to turn up to a medium hours to reach the site for a fault. What that actually means. We're targeting 2 hours and we're turning up 16 hours.
Yep.
And so you're saying that some of that they could ring up on the 30th of the month and we might turn up there on the 1st.
No, I'm just saying that that'll be reported in the month after rather than, so like there's zeros for February, but that doesn't necessarily mean that there was no cases that occurred in February. It most likely means that they were raised in February and closed in March. So someone turned up or somebody finished the request in March. But again, that could also be put down to us getting the data to the contractor too late. So then they have to go and finish it in March. Sorry, Jules?
Sorry, Trey, I was just wanting to double check, some of these requests, do we have a very small number? Because they can well be skewed if we're reporting on a monthly basis.
Yes.
The median's really sensitive to very small numbers of results.
Yep. So for urban water and rural water, we'll have hundreds of cases, so it won't be the case for there. Stormwater, we can get as little as 3 cases in a month, so that can be pretty skewed. And wastewater is pretty similar. It can be maybe have 5, 10 cases in a month.
So for February, we probably hit 0.
Yep.
Which is why it's 0. Okay, thanks.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, Trey, can you just explain, how does median calculate? Just so that everybody understands.
So median is just, well, you get all your data and then say the 0 hours over here, 1,000 over here, you just cut it down from the end. So cut a 0 off, cut 1,000 off, cut a 1, cut a 999. So it's just whittling down the number to whatever the middle value is. I suppose we've done it that way because if you do an average and you have 2 cases that we haven't touched for months, it's going to massively skew the data the other way.
We don't have a choice. It's the measures that are set nationally. So.
Yep. So those are set by the DIO, and we have to report on them.
No other questions on the non-financial part of that? I've got some questions on the financial part. On page 23, we have interest revenue of 3.4 million. 2024, yep, reading the right column. My question is, how much of that is realised revenue versus unrealised revenue?
Greg probably be the best one to talk to that.
I can't see it.
You go to the mic, please. Thanks, Greg.
Yeah, so I actually took the interest figure off my Treasury dashboard. That was 3.187 million. So of that, 2,665,358 was unrealised and 522,040 was realised.
Yeah, because in the current market, the numbers are obviously bigger than they have been, and so being clear, because that if NICO drops, then that revenue drops.
That's right.
Because a big chunk of it is unrealised.
Yes, the majority of it is, yes.
Yeah, and when we get to the annual report time, would that unrealised revenue actually be not sitting in the revenue line, but sitting down in the gains and losses?
I'd have to double check, but yes, I believe from memory there's a separate gains or losses code, so it's kept totally separate from the interest revenue.
So it's not too excited about.
But Mr. Chairman, yeah, but we do address that, we do understand and cover that because our investment financial year ends on the 31st of March deliberately so that we understand what the returns for the year were.
For the purpose of the annual report.
For the purpose of annual plan or long-term decision making. And in theory, if council decides to use that funds, then they will be able to draw it before the end of the financial year. Although we've just had the situation, haven't we, Sharon, that we reported to council that we hadn't actually been withdrawing it, and we've just caught up with that. So whilst you're absolutely right around unrealised, the way the system works is to look at realising some of those if council was to make a decision to use.
Yes, sure. Brian?
Yeah, I thought from an accounting purpose, we didn't realise any of the NECO investment until the end of the financial year.
Oh, that's,
Yeah,
that sits,
So we are.
it sits at the bottom, underneath the surplus.
but didn't you just say that we'd realised 500,000 or 550 or something?
Greg said that, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, and that's what you'd expect, because you have cash sitting around, it's not sitting around doing nothing, it's earning some interest. And so with the current interest rates quite good, then it's 500,000.
Yeah,
It's nice.
We're correct, aren't we, Sharon and Mr. Chairman? If we report like the financial year, 31st of March, and it achieves such and such of a investment return, if we do nothing with it, it's unrealised and can be impacted next time, right? If you do something with it, you're realising.
So our annual report surplus is going to be a couple million worse off. Okay. On page 25, the NZTA subsidy is out because of seasonal timing. Is something being done, Sharon, to address that in the coming LTP?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, yes, it has. The reason it's like this is because our budget's currently just divided by 12, and we know with NZTA that's not the case because we spend the money here and claim it in the next month. So in our new budgeting system, we found out yesterday, we haven't done it yet, but we have the ability to say these are this month's costs and we want them, 67% of them to go into that subsidy. So we have the ability to do that so that our budget won't just be 1/12 each month. It'll be according to how the roading team cash flow is spending.
And just to add to that, Mr. Chairman, we are asking the rating team to be more realistic around the cash flow over the 3-year term, because we've been in trouble in the past on the capital program where it's just been divided by 3, and we know that you don't spend it all in the first, you don't spend what you should be spending in the first year. It's more ramped as you get through the program, and we just need to be better around that because it does impact on our capital program delivery percentages.
It's been a long time coming, getting to this point. It is something that is practice in most other places I go. So it's great that the technology is now in place that you can do that. I have a quick dog registrations, $36,000 short. It's an awful lot of dogs that are missing. Is something being done to correct the budget for the LTP?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I'm not sure why that is that way, so I'll follow that with the dog team. And they have reviewed their budget, so it should be in line. So yeah, I'm not exactly sure why that's behind.
And we also had a report, Mr. Chair, that there was something like, from memory, 115 unregistered dogs. So that doesn't add up either. Last report had it. There was a wee few dogs, but it was from memory 115.
Mr. Chairman, the budget doesn't actually divide into dogs and things, so it
There's different
doesn't have a
classes.
one-to-one
I understand.
relationship, and so you can getting reasonably within cooey of it is actually not too bad for that activity.
Yeah. Item C, the solid waste one, was a budget error that will be fixed in the LTP. Yeah. Greg, the I on this page LGFA interest over budget due to increased interest rates. That would include swaps. Trade, is it?
I don't think we budgeted swaps income until this LTP.
And so that will be,
I think that's just the difference between our internal rates, which we set for our external borrowings as well, and what we're actually being charged.
difference between, say that again.
So internal borrowing rates is what we can budget on because we can rate that, but we can't, like that's supposed to match what LGFA charges us, but that's not been the case. So I think it's set at 3.54 potentially. Is that right? And we're actually getting charged 6% at the moment.
Okay, I'll take this offline. It's not feeling comfortable with it. My point being is the LGFA interest and our swaps interest is not LGFA interest.
No, I don't believe so.
And so we need to be clear as to that. The other question I have is there's a couple of items in here about better off funding and waters reform. We're living in a volatile world at the moment when it comes to water reform, with legislation still to come towards from the government, and I believe there's some due out shortly and possibly some more in December. And the assumption in the LTP is that we are in the water business for forever, for the term of the LTP. And that was a change from where we were required to be late last year. And I guess there's uncertainty as to where we'll be going forward. So it strikes me as there's likely to be a need to be, through this LTP process that you're working on through to June, a constant revision of the assumptions in the LTP, because a change in the law might change it all over again. Seems to be the case, and I guess we've got to somehow address the uncertainty that comes with that. So I have nothing else to say. Wayne.
Through the chair, can I just ask on item B, contributions related to the Milton Waihola pipeline? Can we ask the indication of that figure, or is that sensitive? Or
through you, Mr. Chair, off the top of my head, I think it was like 500,000. Jules might know that better than me. I think it was like 552 or something.
Sorry, what was that for?
The contributions to the Milton to Waihola pipeline. Budgeted contributions.
Yeah, it's the landscape has changed since that point. With a significant large business doing their own thing, so that's why we're behind where we were expecting to be originally.
So that will never come, Jules.
No, there's potential for the other future development in that area to pay a significant contribution to that. It's just the timing of when that will happen is uncertain at this point in time.
Can I just check further on that? You know how way back, and not saying the names, but didn't we have them sealed in? No. Did we? Damn.
Well, not the one that this was allowing for. The company we were looking at for this one has done their own thing for firefighting, which means they didn't need connection to our pipeline. They've put a bore in and they're using non-potable water for firefighting.
That was so much the catalyst at the start, wasn't it? That the big ones come up.
Still significant potential for future contributions.
Yes, because anybody connecting through you, Mr. Chairman, all future connections will be charged financial contributions, and this is all going to add up. It's just a timing issue as to when that occurs. This is the case with a lot of councils where they put the infrastructure in and then have to wait for development as a consequence. At least we don't have the majority of the funding reliant on financial contributions like some councils. It's only a proportion of it.
And just to be clear, we've designed the pipeline for the significant area that's earmarked for industrial growth in the Melbourne area. So we're not looking to have to put anything else in to supply that area in the future. It's already on the ground.
And I suppose financial contributions will change, Mr. Chairman, adding in cost of finance as well, if that's the case, while we wait.
All right, no more questions? Move a seconder that the Risk and Assurance Committee receives the annual plan performance monitoring report. Thank you, John. Thank you, Alison. Those in favour? Against? Carried. Many pages down.
38.
38, thank you. Page 38. Linda? No? Daniel? Welcome, Daniel, to the Protozoa and Bacterial Compliance Report.
Good morning. I'm here to present the Protozoa and Bacterial Compliance Report and take any questions through you, Mr. Chair.
Fine.
Daniel, I know it's probably pedantic, but I'll get on before Bruce. On page 42, Glen Kinnock, it's got 29 out of 29 days compliant, but it's in red. And then the page over for Tuapeka East, it's got as above, but as above said Stirling is experiencing minor non-compliance and in green, and yet Tuapeka East was in red. It's just boxes.
That's because Tuapeka East is fed by Waitahuna, and it's referring to the Waitahuna treatment plant. So that's why.
As above.
Yes, so it's not as above, directly as above for Stirling, it's as above for the other explanations.
Yep. And then the 29 out of 29, should that be a green one?
No, it shouldn't, because it's about the chlorine residual in the distribution zone. So if it's not being maintained above 0.2, that can't be considered compliant.
From a wider view, we are maybe not looking at more green boxes, but there seems to be light at the end of the red box tunnel. Would that be right?
Yes, it can be. It's up and down sometimes with the nature of our supplies that we have. So while we're becoming a bit more consistent with what we're doing, we can't guarantee what's happening in the future just on the nature of those supplies.
That's right. Thank you.
No other questions? The Risk and Assurance Committee receives the Protozoa Bacterial Compliance Report. Those in favour? Oh, hang on. I need to move in a second. It would help. Moved Bruce, seconded Michelle. Bruce V. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. Thank you, Daniel. That takes us to the Water Operations 8 months report. Linda, this time. Welcome, Linda.
Good morning. Present the report. I'm sure there'll be some questions that need to be tabled, and Greg will be my trusty sidearm to help me answer some of those.
Any questions? Brian.
Yeah, thank you, Linda. We're constantly getting smashed on how much debt, what's the answer, blah, blah, blah. Page 47, it's got the last bullet point of the main box there. Please note, capital work is not yet funded, no loans have been raised or reserves transferred. This is done at the end of the year, so we're coming up to that point where a big jump's going to happen. Can you tell us what's it looking like?
Greg, you'll need to turn them.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, that's typically the process we do. Like at year end, we review all the management reports for all the different business units, work out what we need to fund from capital reserves. So we'll be doing that like after the end of June. So that's the point of time where we'll be able to work that out. Sharon might have something to add.
Through you, Mr. Chair. That's an internal process. So when we were talking about debt the other day, we talked about how we borrow for our business. And so we've actually borrowed to pay for all these things, but we haven't allocated the internal loans yet to the business units. So it's simply an internal process at the end of the year. We don't need to borrow another 26 million.
Right, so that's not going to affect that, the figures that I'm saying to the public, that's good. Beauty.
So the numbers, the $26 million has been borrowed and what you've borrowed for is for capital funding, not for operation funding.
Through Mr. Chair, it's a little of both, but we talked about that a week or so ago. We worked out where it was, and it's in the water space, which we knew. We knew that was happening, bringing 3 waters in-house and stuff like that. And that has been corrected in the long-term plan going forward. So it is a little bit of both.
Intentionally?
Unknowingly, Mr. Chairman, is the answer, because the question is, if you've budgeted for having a contract to deliver 3 waters, which we did, and then have the transition to change the contract with 3 waters, and then bring it all in-house and all the people associated with it, you didn't have the salary budgets, you didn't have the ops budgets. So the knowing bit is the result of those decisions, and that. So yes, that's why there will be operational costs that are debt funded or loan funded, debt funded this year. But again, that's knowingly because of those decisions. If you look at this report, the whole reason this report is here is to reflect what is the capital and operational costs associated with that, bringing it in-house.
And in your reserve accounting, are you keeping the operational balance separate from the capital balance? With an expectation that future operating costs would reduce the operational portion, or
with the debt?
With that, the
Yes.
operational portion, yes.
Well, the LTP, Sharon, is highlighting that we need to fund the deficit. Because
The operating deficit as
the outcome
opposed
of
to
that is a deficit,
capital,
right?
Yes.
And what we did is we said, well, there was a deficit last year, so there'll be a deficit this year. And we wanted to make sure the LTP covers that, so we're not trying to do it in any other way. It's part of the paying that off over time, but it's within the LTP.
Excellent. Brian?
With the confusion around that announcement of internal debt, and I've got to get my figures right in my head, so we're sitting at just over 70 million of internal debt now, or at the end of the wash up at the end of the financial year? And so is it 71 million? And with this, because I've never seen a projection of what the internal debt's going to be, what are we anticipating internal debt will be after year 1 of the long-term plan?
Yeah, Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
Very good question. Very good question. We can do some work on that. Like I could chuck a number out there, but I'd rather actually sit there and.
Am I right that 71 is where we are at the moment?
Yes, it'll be the same as 30th of June last year.
Oh, yeah, don't shift.
Yeah, we don't shift it until.
So it is 71, right?
Yes,
But we haven't got a prediction of what it'll be.
we can do one.
Let's do it.
Wayne?
Thanks, through the chair. I've got a question. I'd just like to comment, Linda, that this is a great report, and I look forward to reading it as time goes by, because I think as time goes by, it'll be a great report to read. So thank you.
Right, thank you.
Simon?
Through the chair, just on the internal debt, so shouldn't the internal debt at the start of the year be roughly equal to the external debt?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, yes, and
So that should,
that was at the start of 1 July 23.
Yeah.
That it was about, I think I brought that to you guys as well, it was about 3 million different.
Yeah.
And that was around money that we hadn't pulled out.
should be.
Yes, so it should be.
It should, but then that 4 million that we didn't chop over, is that what you said? What was the 4 million?
It was all the reconciling items on the bottom of the debts thing we talked about. It was money we hadn't pulled out of Nico.
Yeah, that one.
It was,
Yeah. I thought that was 6.
Yeah, that was, and then there was some transition funding for this year that we've had to fund. It's operational. There was quite a group of things, but we'll keep that debt document live as well. And keep, it's not going to be perfect because there's always little issues with when we do this and that, but we should be able to explain pretty close.
I'm getting to that.
Yeah, through the chair, I just think that when we are explaining it, that's probably our easiest way to do it. The internal debt is always going to be very close to the external debt.
No, that's not the case.
No, because it's not.
Balance out the internal. debt.
Well, at the end of the year.
Yes, not
Big
net,
chunk of it,
not
eh?
net internal debt, just internal.
Never has those signs, I'm scared.
Yeah, but that's only, it's always going to be like that because you've got to alter those accounts at the end of the year.
What's really important is that your reserves are funded. So I'm accepting everything you're saying, but the thing that causes me greatest angst is when I walk into a council and they've got reserves and they're not cash backed. It's just a piece of paper that's worthless if they're not cash backed. And so your internal debt flows into that calculation as well, and it's something that Sharon and I have always checked on an annual plan. And fortunately, with the big Nico fund at the moment, it's nice that you have that ability to ensure that your reserves are cash funded. Right.
Yeah, sorry, Mr. Chair, you'll be the only one that won't be aware probably, but there was a non-council public meeting where vast community was disseminated amongst the public that you add your internal onto your external. Which you obviously don't, but that's the misinformation trail that we're trying to get on top of now.
Cool. John?
Just a bit of a strange one. So if I'm a member of the public and I log onto this and look at it for the first time, and I look at that and I go, gee, they're pretty good at budgeting their expenditure because it's just about exactly the same as what the full year actual and full year budget are just, they're 354,000 out. But they're pretty hopeless at budgeting their income. But I mean, the explanation would have to be that you see what I mean? If you look at the bottom lines, a full year budget, we budgeted to take in 16 million, we're only each taking 11.
That was an 8-month budget.
Which page are you on?
I'm on page 49.
49, yeah.
So it's the full year budget and the actual, they're 5 million apart.
The actuals for 8 months.
Yeah, it's only 8 months.
The 8-month budget would be right.
There's 8 month actuals, 8 month budget.
So that would be the same argument in reverse sense. So why is it, if one's for 8 months, if one's a full year budget at the bottom of the expenditure, we've already spent it in 8 months.
Yeah, and that's the point.
Yeah.
We're
But people looking at that for the first, I suppose the thing that's in the back of my mind is that I suppose we can react a lot quicker to expenses, but we've only got one shot every year at rating for it. So that's the lag period.
Well, my reading was, Mr. Chairman and Sharon, is actually we're ahead of budget for income at the 8-month point, and I'm not sure why, but we are. That's how I read it, because it's a negative. We're actually ahead of the game.
Yep.
Not sure why, but we are.
It's confusing with the full year budget.
Right, Bruce.
Just a question back on page 47, we've got the 3 articulation contracts confirmed now. And do they do different, are they capable of different roles, jobs? Are they working in different areas, or how do you pick which ones to use?
Through you, Mr. Chair, so we direct all of the work to Isaac Group and then they disseminate to their delivery partners. They are broadly geographic, so West Otago is contract excavation, and then Isaac's and Andrew Haulage kind of split up the East Coast areas. But the skills for Andrew Haulage, so they do most of the drainage or the sewage work. We don't have any bills from Isaacs for that, so they don't have the skills in the team to do that work currently.
And it's the contract is basically set up as sort of day rates, isn't it? Is that?
Yes, that is, that's the basis of it, for a period of, it was going to be 18 months, but we're talking about 12 months now, so that they have a look through 2 summers, and a 4-year cycle, and then we're looking to move to measure and value, so that we'll have some fixed rates for some things.
Thank you.
Charles?
Through you, Mr Chair, to Linda, page 47, non-routine sampling and non-routine expenditure are also over budget by 2.3. This is a product of our advisory notices. So can you just elaborate on what's non-routine?
So through you, Mr Chair, so we budget for routine sampling, which is the stuff that we would ordinarily do as a water supplier, and also to meet our consent requirements for waste. And so when we have aluminium advisories or other poor results, we then have to go into a whole testing regime, often for months at a time, to report on those. And so that's where the non-routine expenditure comes.
So that 2.3 is just for non-routine, like that's to go in around and do all that testing?
Yes, because you're testing at multiple retic sites, you're testing multiple days instead of maybe testing once a month or whatever the requirement is, depending on the rule. And so you're testing more frequently at more sites.
So that 2.3 is over and above, like that's what we're paying our staff to go out and do all this testing?
Now we pay Eurofins, so we have an independent party doing that.
So that goes to an independent?
Sorry, Linda, it's non-routine expenditure as well as non-routine.
Oh, sorry. Oh, it's both?
Brian?
Yeah, there's so
Sorry.
many figures coming at us at the moment. If we can go $2.3 million over and above, it's, you know, they're going out and collecting a jar. That's a lot of going out and collecting before you get to 2.3. How much do we spend on sampling? You know, I've never actually thought the government tells us to do this, this, and this, and I thought, oh, yeah, 100,000 will mop that all up or something. I never thought 2.3. What's our overall sampling regime?
I'd have to have a look and see what that comes to. Your worship.
That's certainly a figure
It's
that, you know,
significant.
when the ratepayers are saying all these extra expenses, $2.3 million, I never thought would be for sampling.
So just the figure in the report, your worship, is 235,000 for non-routine sampling.
Oh, so 2.3 is not just for the sampling.
Most of it's non-routine expenditure.
Ah.
Yeah, and there are costs associated with those notices of non-routine expenditure, but it's also repairs and all those sorts of things as well. So it's not just
Right, that
associated
pulls back
with
into
the notices.
Sorry.
There's other expenditure as well.
Cheers.
So that would be a large component of the retic repairs that happen are non-routine. Can't plan for a pipe repair.
Yeah. Bruce, were you putting your hand up or has it been
I was
answered?
probably just going to make the point that the Chief Executive made then just on that sort of cover on page 50, but it's Sage. Because down there in non-routine expenditure jobs, there's 2.3 million there, as well as the non-routine sampling and non-routine expenditure.
There's an under budget on that.
So, what would non-routine jobs, sorry, have you got that? Yeah.
I can see the number, but I'm not sure. I'd have to examine that number further.
Through you, Mr Chair. That's simply non-routine expenditure and non-routine expenditure jobs are the same. It's just that if it goes through different reporting, if we report it on a job, it has to go through a different number. That's why they're right beside each other. So they're exactly the same thing.
Is that similar? Sorry.
No.
It's not.
No, it's in some schemes, you'll just put it straight to a GL code, and in other schemes, you have to put it through a job to a GL code. And it has to be
80% of the rural water schemes probably make up the non-routine stuff, and the urbans and the other, a small handful of other rurals make up the non-routine jobs.
3.3.
Yes, so that's right, Mr Chairman. You should add the two together and say the expenditure for 8 months was 3.3 and the budget for 8 months was 1.3. that's how you would read it.
So going forward for the LTP, we would be budgeting for something similar to this 2.3 million of non-routine.
This is an 8-month expenditure.
Oh, we'd need to extrapolate that out, and that's what would become part of the base budget in the LTP.
Yes, and so, Mr. Chairman, when we said we needed 15 million additional revenue, which equated to 45% revenue increase needed, 12 of the 15 was Three Waters, ops and loan repayment.
Right.
So I'm trying to work this out. So aluminium's been around for more than a year. So the non-routine would be the protozoa that they jumped on us. Is that all, or is that aluminium as well? The cumulative effect of them coming and going, sort out your protozoa, sort out the aluminium, was not only more testing, but we had to go away and fix some things. So is it just protozoa that they jumped on us ended up being 2.3, or is it protozoa and aluminium? Or is it...
Some will be aluminium as well. So when we have a result, and we can have one result that's outside the MAV, and then we have to test for a month.
Is there anything other, if I say in public, protozoa and aluminium ended up swiping us an extra 2.3, is that it, or is...
No, Your Worship, I mean, like, we're doing more work.
Yeah, I know.
And so, you're comparing it to budgets relating to the previous contract. And that's why it's really hard to compare it. You can't make the suggestions like that as to why that's the costing. It's that it's reflective of the total work we're doing across all.
But if it's non-routine, if it's something that we didn't expect, and the catalyst to it was we get hit by the regulator for protozoa and aluminium, is that what happened or not? Because it's non-routine.
Just to be clear, the non-routine, that 3.3 million is pipe repairs, it's all sorts of things.
Yeah.
It's not just the costs associated with the additional sampling.
Oh, yeah. I now work that one out.
Non-routine sampling is about $200,000. The rest of that 3.3 million is a whole lot of other work.
It's work we had to do to meet the protozoa.
No, not just that. It's all sorts of work on the schemes. It's doing a pipe break in the middle of our Clutha. It's doing all sorts of other. So that we don't. That's stuff that periodically jumps up and we have to do the repairs. I mean, if you look at the sampling, which probably a big chunk of that is, it's only about $200,000.
And my point is that in the LTP, you will be budgeting for non-routine expenditure as part of your normal base budget, because you know that uncertainty will happen.
No, that's what I was going to say. We've always budgeted for non-routine in the past, expenditure in the past as well.
I was trying to frame a story to protect this. It's not going to work, is it?
Right, Bruce.
Can I just ask a question there? What would we have been paying to City Care for their contract?
I'm not able to answer, Sharon.
Well, we know that even with the last year of the City Care contract, and even possibly the year before, the budget, I think the budget was like operations was about 4 mil, something like that. I vaguely remember, and but we know that we were going over that even with the existing budget, and I again vaguely think one of the years might have been 6 mil versus 4 mil, something just off the top of my head. So we were already moving towards the budget's not actually the contract budget's not actually meeting the on the ground costs. That's just my recollection.
Thank you. Right. No further. Sorry, Wayne.
Through the chair, can I just ask what we're going to be budgeting for non-routine maintenance?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I just asked Sharon that question, and she's just having a look at the system now.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
But we can carry on.
We'll carry on. Yeah, right. In that case, we will, the Risk and Assurance Committee receives the Three Waters Operations 8 months report. I thank you, Bruce G. Thank you, Bruce B. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. We got there?
Yes.
No? 52?
Yeah.
Page 52?
Yes.
Right. I thought 52,000 was the number.
No.
Right, the audit recommendations monitoring report. If I read this correctly, nothing has changed since the last meeting. Do you want to speak to that?
Through you, Mr. Chair, no, I'm just going to take that.
I think the time has come for the committee to address the online banking signatories matter. As best I can tell, Sharon, you've done about all you can do on researching the options with the bank here.
Through you, Mr. Chair, that is true. There's 2 recommendations, and to fix one, we have to make the other one worse. So they want us to have less online signatories, and if we do that, then we have to have less segregation of duties, which is the other thing they want. So to have more segregation of duties, we need more online signatories. So we physically can't make both things go away.
So, in my opinion, we're dealing with a banking system that every council's dealing with, and I'm not seeing this as a big risk. It is a risk. It's a risk that I think we should just accept there's a risk. I went through this before with John some years ago, and I think there's bigger risks in this space. And a council not far from here recently had a situation where they had a $50,000 payment to make to an Australian business, and that scammers got hold of that invoice and changed the bank account number, and the money was paid to the scammer. And so those sorts of risks are far greater risks. It was a breakdown in training and a breakdown in actioning what training had happened, probably. And those sorts of things are far greater financial risk to us, because it could have been a much bigger contract payment, for example, then I think the risks that can occur here, there's people all working in an open plan environment and watching each other all the time and things like that, aren't taken account into this analysis. So on the back of that, I think the staff have spent enough time working on this. I don't think it's getting any more value to us in terms of risk, and that we should remove these items from the risk. We've taken it as far as we can take it. Does anyone want to discuss that?
Fair call.
Just,
Yes, right, Bruce.
So just looking at the bottom of page 55, we've got the response. Currently staff who process a file for payment, upload it, and are the first authoriser. Is that perhaps, could that be changed? That
it's the banking
they
system.
upload it, but then
You're automatic, the bank. Sorry. You answer the question.
Through you, Mr. Chair. As part of the process, the way it's set up now, so if we're loading up a payment run to pay the creditors, Louise will do that as part of her job, and it'll get uploaded. And she is the first authoriser to say it's in there and it's ready to go. It's part of that process.
It's automated, isn't it?
No, she does have to take it. Yeah, but she can't actually pay it. She doesn't have the power to pay it. That'll have to be myself or Greg.
so one other person.
Yeah.
I'm just mindful of another organisation, small organisation
Yeah.
I'm involved with. The secretary will upload that onto the bank direct thing, but then 2 of us on the board actually have to go and authorise it. The secretary doesn't do the authorisation, so I'm just wondering how it compares.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we could change to do that. We could get the bank process changed to do that. Then we end up with having to have more people that have the ability to go online and do that. because we're quite a small team and you need like 3 people to pay anything. And if you only had 3 people, imagine if someone took leave. So we end up needing more people with the ability to authorise, which is the other thing they're saying they want less of. So we can do that.
So, just trying to think, within the organisation there's not enough people sort of unrelated to the transactions.
With online access, no. It depends on the process. If it's a paying the bills process, it would be Louise as the first person. If it's paying the wages, it would be Lauren as the first person. And then, so you need to involve 2 other people in anything they do, and neither of them have the ability to actually tick the pay box at the end. They can be first authoriser, but they can't be second. So they can't authorise each other's, they can't, they're locked down to that. So it would just mean, we could do that, it just means we would need some more people to be able to be that authoriser. It's just being.
Joe, you're quite happy with the way it's working for you, Sharon?
Through you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I like it best on the days when Greg authorises them, though.
Not listening.
Just bear with me while I draft a resolution.
I think what Sharon's trying to say, Councillor Wheeler, is that it's not broken, don't fix it.
Somebody's suggesting it is broken.
I don't know the completion, that suggestion.
God, I want to say this. That the committee recognise staff have fully researched the segregation of duties and banking of online signatories, and the committee accepts the residual risk I want non-effective, and that further investment is not efficient. Sorry? First what?
No, it's right.
Not effective. In other words, what I'm trying to say is it's not worth spending any more on time and money on it. Alison?
I probably disagree. Sorry to disagree, but I can't see the problem with having a primary person and 2 secondary, and they're almost got different, because obviously the secondary don't have to be. I just don't see a problem with it. And you say more staff, but actually, how many more staff? Because how many secondary signatories have you got now?
3.
3. Which allows for 1 to be away, I guess. So probably 1 more secondary signature and you're covered. I don't see a problem personally with it. To me, your first signatory is basically setting up your payments. I mean, the sister I'm working with, I have to have two signatories come by me and take over, and I can kind of sometimes see why, because that's just my person.
Through you, Mr.
So
Chair.
I think we're making a big call to say we don't need it when that's what the auditors have recommended.
We can absolutely do it, but that's only, I suppose the point of the conversation is that's only part of what the audit is saying. They're also saying we've got too many online people. So, yeah, and we can't chop all these people out, or we can't upload the payments. We can't put the direct debits in to get money. We can't pay your wages, like all mine. You know, like we need all these people, and that's just it. They're saying you've got too many, and then they're saying, but you need more because you need to segregate it. It's like, where do you, yeah, we can absolutely set that up, but we'll be having more people, and the other point will stay in that letter.
But to me, your primary one that's loading, that's all they've got the ability to do is basically load. They've got no ability for signage, only to load. So it doesn't matter across the organisation if you have half a dozen to load because they've got no ability to sign off. Their signature can do nothing but load. So I don't even see that as a problem really.
I'm going to move this motion. That the committee recognises that staff have fully researched the segregation of duties and banking online banking signatories, and the committee accepts the residual risk and that further investing in minimising the risk is ineffective. Ineffective is the wrong word, inefficient. So I'll move that. Have a seconder? Bruce? Seconder Bruce G. Brian?
I get it, that we've been going round and round in circles with this forever, and it does have to come to an end. But then the auditor's still telling us to lift our act on it, so I'm hesitant to go against the auditor, and yet I've had enough of it. So I'm awaiting further discussion to drag me off the fence.
So we're in debate. Anyone else? Alison?
Well, I'll probably stick to what I've originally said. I do accept it. It is probably another staff member, but I still don't see because they're definitely different levels. If those that are basically means that those that are, it's actually giving you a 2 people sign off because at the moment you've only got a 1 person sign off in lots of ways because those loading it really. I believe you're only getting a 1 person sign off at the moment.
Bruce?
Just a question then. It says currently.
We're in debate.
Sorry.
In debate. No questions.
Okay. It says. I guess I need a question answered. Cheers. Okay. Where I go with the debate. But it says on page 56 that currently 7 staff have access to our banking system. Does that include, they're the only staff that can actually do the first authorisation, the first loading, sorry?
Through you, Mr. Chair, some of them are. We have people that can load direct debits, payments, international transfers, wages. They're all different people, and in some cases there's 2 to provide cover, and then there's people that can do the second authorisation. They can't do the first, and the people that do the first can't do the second.
Are there people then that can load but can't do the first authorisation?
Through you, Mr. Chair, no. And that's just when we set up the banking system, when we went to online banking many moons ago, that was our business process. It was, if I upload it and first authorise it and you get the message, that means I'm saying, I'm done, I think it's good, your turn to check it, then authorise it. Off we go. That was how we set that process up then.
So I guess my argument would be that a person, an author, do we need more people to authorise if actually do the authorisation if other staff are just simply uploading to that and not? I would have thought perhaps half a dozen staff would be quite sufficient just to do the authorisation, but somebody else is doing the uploading.
We're talking to the resolution. Anyone else who hasn't spoken want to speak? Ken?
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Look, I'm looking at them. We obviously cannot undertake both of these resolutions to fix the problem. I mean, I'm sitting here, we need to go back to these guys and say, what do they actually want? Because it's so damn confusing sitting here. And we've just spent too much time on it. Can't we go back and see them and say, what is it that you want?
Yeah, don't pass the resolution. Takes us back. Right.
Yeah, I have concern now from Councillor Ludeman's comments, knowing that she's worked here, so I need to go back to the layperson. As an example, I'm doing the bill, I put down, it's $1,000, I sign it off, so I've done my signing, I pass it on, and the second person changes the $1,000, does their signing, and it's gone, because that last person is the one and only approval. I'd like to have two people approve it. Do we have a system at the moment that could alter the amount from the first to the second, have one person sign it off and be on its way?
I'm through you, Mr. Chair. No, the file gets uploaded, and if it's me signing it off, I can't alter the file. I can look at it, I can read it, I can sit there with the invoices and tick them off, but I can't change it.
Can't change it right now.
Bruce, right of reply is seconded. Sorry? You have a right of reply as seconded? No? In that case, I'm going to put the motion. Those in favour? Those against? The motion is lost. Put the motion that we receive the report. Mover, Bruce and Ken, is it?
Yeah, I was going to just suggest another motion perhaps.
Are you welcome to?
Yeah. And that's that we do go back to the auditors and ask the very question of them. What part of this do they want us to do?
Can we leave that as an instruction for staff rather than a resolution?
Okay, well, that's fine.
And we receive the report? Yeah, you happy to receive the report? Seconded? Yep. Thank you, Ken, Bruce and Ken.
Well, Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
sorry, I haven't been following, but it was reminded to me that my understanding is we do require get the names of those that voted and was voting against.
The recent OA Officer of the General guidelines.
Oh, okay.
Make sure we record.
So if you wouldn't mind, if we just get that, the names recorded for the secretary, that would be great.
So it's Bruce in favour? And myself? Did anyone, no one abstain? No? So everyone else?
Yes, but it'll only be those that can vote.
That can vote, yes.
So that's the confusing bit.
That's the committee vote. Well, we know, yeah.
What's this again?
We know who's on the committee.
Oh, the secretary.
They can make you do anything,
I
just want to redo the vote.
So we currently got a move and second to receive the report. All those in favour? All those against? Carried. Thank you all. That takes us to the Treasury report on page 57. Greg? Welcome, Greg.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, so with the NECO fund, we've got our result for full 12 months of April 23 to March 24 now. So the return on investment is 14.36%. As discussed before, there is a quite large portion of that is unrealised. Just I was going to mention too that the other day withdrawn 6.8 million from the fund. It's to do with the prior year investment surplus transfers and rates offsets. So that'll bring that balance down to about 25 or 26 million, which you'll see in the report for next time. With the borrowings, so we had 8 million of new debt raised in March. So that's why the new debt right-hand side of the table is now 37 million. In terms of the policy compliance, I was just going to point out, this mentions it in more detail on page 73, which is in the Bancorp report. was a minor non-compliance on fixed rate hedging bands, so 39.3% fixed debt compared to the 40% minimum requirement. But as mentioned, it did correct itself quite quickly, and was, a minuscule non-compliance. No, that's all I had. Unless we take any questions.
Greg, sorry, I was talking to Sharon. Just to be clear, on page 58 in the debt maturity profile in 2024, there's a little grey box at the bottom of that.
Bank debt.
Which is bank debt. Did you just speak to that? No? No?
Bank debt, no.
Yeah, so that's a common thing for us to see in here. And the rest of the report talks about LGFA funding. So we've suddenly used some bank debt, 3 million.
Yes, I think it was the local Westpac.
Yeah, so we borrowed on for 3 days, I understand.
Yes, that's what it is.
So through you, Mr. Chair, just to explain that a bit more, we have a $3 million overdraft facility that if we're short and need money before we can get it from LGFA or NICO, we whip that out, and then as soon as we've got our money, we put it back. It's just to ensure that we can pay a short notice bills if they do.
So the $3 million was repaid by drawing down a loan from the LGFA?
Brian, how often do we do that? First question, sorry. How often do we do that?
Through you, Mr. Chair, we try not to do it. It's no problem to do it, it's just that the interest on it is a wee bit higher. And less and less often, because our fabulous people that are spending all our money out there on contracts are getting really good at telling us when they're going to spend it. So it's more if you didn't know you were going to have a $2 million roading contract to pay, turned up on your desk, it's due today, it's like eek. But yeah, we've got a much better thing going with people managing the contracts, and they're letting us know, this is what I need this month and this is when it is.
So just in this period until we get through to the end of the LTP, obviously there's quite a lot of scrutiny and they're holding us to, I've been saying a figure of 111 million and yet it's a figure of 106. So I've got to get it right in my head. 111 million is what we're predicting at the end of the June financial year. We paid off, we pay off 6 million rounds. So you know how that money that was there, we paid off. Does that now mean that instead of 111 million, it's going to be 105 million?
Through you, Mr. Chair, no. It means that we didn't have to borrow to pay our bills this month. So it's still 106, and we used the 6.7 million to pay our bills.
Yeah, but you know how we were predicting to go to 111 full stop. If we've now we've taken money from the investment, are we still going to go to $111 million of debt? We will.
Or more.
Or more. Yeah. Right. So can we please have especially in this period between now and the end of the LTP, if there is a written or a statement or something that fundamentally changes our financial position, that we're informed, because we're getting held to, I've made defining statements, if I write them down, I've been saying 111 million, 31 million in investment, and we're getting charged 5.25%. That's what they're constantly, every single meeting they're hitting us with, but it's 5.17 now. Yeah, but then 5.17. What is the amount that we're paying in interest right at the moment? What I've been saying 5.25. What is the figure I should be saying?
Sorry, Mr. Chair. The 5.17 is the cost of funds as at a point in time.
Yeah.
And it's worked out on that big list of borrowing.
Yeah. So I could justifiably say 5.17, the same as I said 5.25.
We're budgeting going forward on the 5.25.
Yeah.
Because that was the advice we got at that time as an assumption.
And then Greg, you said that our investment was now 25 million, but we had 32.9. We took out 6, so it should be 27 million.
Yeah, I just rounded up to 7, so yeah. but
So there's
it's-
27 million, 26.9 on the bank.
Yeah,
and
we'll
the
confirm that
legal.
when we receive the April result. Tell us what the balance is, yeah.
Oh, okay. Of course.
The additional gains, losses.
And
Changes.
it's going down this week.
Also, just Mr. Chair, to make a point, because it is a little important point, the 111 is the annual plan budgeted balance. You're using the word predicted balance. That's a forecast, and that's the thing that you're asking for is a forecast.
Yeah.
It's not a forecast that we were going to be 111. It's a budget 111. Right?
Just as long as I use the right words.
Just while we're on that, is the 3 million, this is labelled LGFA borrowing, is the 3 million borrowed from the bank included in this? In the top, in this debt balance at the top of page 58?
No, that's just the LGFA debt balance.
Yeah, so if you bring in another borrowing source, can you add it to the dashboard so it's complete? So it's actually a borrowing at the 31st of March is 106 plus 3 million.
Sorry.
Can I just get that last clarification? You know how we've been saying, so if the bank called us in, our net debt is? What's our net?
We just want to, hang on, Your Worship, we're just checking. This was done at the time and point of the report. Has that 3 million, is it still sitting there, or have we already done it? Has it already been paid off? So it's already been paid back from?
From new debt.
Yeah, but is it
So it's
new debt or
new
from
debt,
the
so-
NECO?
New debt included in the 37 though. It's just, it must have been right on that time.
37.
37, so the 37. So even though the 3 million is not in the top bit, the new debt came in and we
Oh.
paid it back after that, so the cut off like the 3 million.
Oh, so it isn't?
Yes.
It's just described.
Yes.
So what's our net debt, Chair? If the bank called us in hypothetically, investment year to date, what is
So
it?
you, Mr. Chair, it's 82 million. rounded
82.
rounded.
So it's gone up from 77 million weeks.
I thought I had John first. You did put your
Yeah,
hand
mine, just a quick question, a quick comment.
That's fine.
So Sharon, with the 3 million bank debt, obviously that's got a fairly high interest rate, but we'll be paying the holding costs to have those, that facility available every year, and if we don't use it anyway. That'll be quite stroppy at the moment too.
So you, Mr. Chair, absolutely we do.
Yeah.
It was $675 a month,
Oh, that's cheap.
but
Yeah. Well, look, I suppose you can start to understand there's a fair old line of questioning because we're all wanting to get our figures straight. Interesting reading, I thought, when you look at the bottom of page 64, and we are 106 million at that time of this report at 5.6%. You scroll down 2 pages 2 years ago, we owed 37 million at 2.5%. The world's a different place.
Simon?
Yeah, I just, through you, Chair, I just wish to make a comment about getting, I don't think for the staff's sake we should get too hung up on that exact amount of debt at the balance sheet, because, as where we are at the year to date, because we just heard earlier in that PCG meeting that Greenfield project could, they're going well, they might want another few $1 million of borrowing to support it. So things like that are changing all the time. It's that approximate number that's useful.
We're still going to hit them with the new numbers so that because they'll call us liars.
No, we can just say it's, well, you
Yeah,
can say
you're
it's a
right.
live thing. It's going all the time, changing, altering all the time with these big projects.
Yep. I've got the figures in the head, those. 2782.
Yeah, so it's possible that the debt that's in your draft LTP, the opening debt, will change. And it's really important that it changes. I had an experience with an accountant, with a council some years ago where their debt had changed before balance date, and it was more than what their opening debt in their LTP was. And that was one of a couple of errors that led to a lot of problems in the subsequent year or so after that. So something that I just reminded Sharon of, making sure that we do that. Anything further on this report from Greg? In that case, we will receive the report. All those in favour? Those against? Oh, I need the mover and second again. I got a bit, thank you, Michelle. And thank you, John. Got a bit clumsy in my last resolution of the meeting. All those in favour? Aye. All those against? Carried. That takes us to the end of the agenda. And I close.
True, this is your last meeting, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah, so I had my hand up.
Yes, you did.
So,
That's right.
look, Steve, over the years, I want to thank on behalf of the district for the contribution you've made and the rigour you've put into the process. We wish you well for the future. You're going out on your own terms, and that's always a good way, sitting around a political table. It's an envious position to be in. But we want to thank you, personally and also on behalf of the district for the effort that you've put in, for the camaraderie and the relationships you build up, and we wish you well for your future.
Thank you, Brian. Can I close the meeting now?
Yeah.
Right, I close the meeting at 12:06.